Papa?
I told you your name.
Sorry?
Well, we're moving to other matters right now. Just when you move from one issue to another issue to another issue, all of them contending for attention, and you say, which one do we deal with first? But hey, education is very important. Only recently we heard that that ASUU, called off their strike. They're set to resume. They're supposed to resume on the 18th of January. We don't know how far that has now worked, considering the fact that another set of unions within the university system, raised concern over how, certain monies that were supposed to have been disbursed to the different bodies within the university system was now being disbursed. We saw a protest protest marches across different tertiary institutions across the country to draw attention to this. We do not know how much of attention that was able to draw to the problems. We have with us in the studio Mohammed Ibrahim, who is the national president of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, with us in the studio to give us an update, as we understand that now you're about to go on strike as a result of no attention being given to that protest. Was that what happened?
Well, thanks for having me. We are not about to go on strike, but we have given notice for going on strike if nothing is done by the 5th of February.
Isn't that the same thing? About to go on strike. It means you're about to go.
Because we believe that government will listen, and we also believe that something will be done.
But have they listened so far? You had the protest marches for a few days across Nigerian universities. Didn't that draw their attention?
Well, maybe not enough, because we have not been asked to, discuss with government, or we have not sent anything to convince us that government has listened or they are ready to do, the needful. So that gave birth to the resolutions that came from different branches across Nigeria, because this is something that has to do with the feelings and the welfare and well-being of our members across Nigerian universities. Members.
So what informs your optimism then? If they did not listen to something that was broadcast on television, in radio stations, marches across Nigerian universities, knowing that even though, yes, ASUU has now been mobilized to go back to school, if these people are not, carried along, there is no way ASUU can work. What do you think is going to spur them to action this time around?
Well, we still give the benefit of the doubt to the government. I don't want to be one of those who, concurs with the fact that the government is running a bit slow. But obviously, you cannot run away from saying it, because, like you said, that this has been in the media, it's in the full glare. And the last time I was here, I told you that we have given this to the court of public opinion, and that we thought government feels the pulse of the people. And obviously, this has not been done. So we believe that after the first stage of the protest, we have conclusively arranged that if by the midnight of 5th of February, government does not do the needful, of course, we have the mandate of our members, and we have written government that we will down tools.
By the 5th of February?
Yeah.
Well, again, I think that the issues that, are contending for attention needs to be brought to the fore. A number of them, if I can enumerate them here, they look like things that are commonplace. For instance, the retirement benefits of some of your members who have left service. Why is that an issue? Shouldn't that be taken for granted by now?
Honestly, this is $1 million question, because one cannot but feel so bad to talk about it, because if you are in the know, the pension scheme provides that public servants give out a certain percentages of their salaries to PENCOM, where such monies are handled by the PFAs. Mm-hmm. Now, government is supposed to bring a certain percentage, but from what we have seen so far, the whole thing is modeled up government is not living up to expectation. We have also found out that government is not remitting such funds that were supposed to have been removed from the salaries of our members. And that makes it very difficult for members who retire to access such funds when they retire.
That's alarming.
It's
even
alarming.
For those in service.
Yeah. So this gives a lot of concern. And that you could see that so many of our members are languishing after retirement. You know, when you must have given your money, it's your money. And then at the end of the day, you cannot access it. It becomes a problem. 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, 2 years after retirement, you're still traveling between the office of the PFA and the PENCOM, where you need to do a lot of screening, a lot of going up and down, and some of them die, some of them get struck, get a lot of issues. So these are things that are not highlighted, that our strike or our concerns or our grievances is not basically about allowances that are being mentioned, but more to that is that any public servant or any worker anywhere will want to have a peaceful life after, the working life. You want to have a restful life, you want to impact on your family and then enjoy the rest of your life. But when government cannot be trusted because of obvious, gaps that are there, that are avoidable, then it becomes a problem.
You're looking at a number of other things which you are talking about: inconsistencies in Ipis payment, non-payment of earned allowances, non-payment of arrears of national minimum wage, delay in renegotiation of FGN, NASU and SSANU 2009 agreement, teaching staff usurping headship of non-teaching units in clear violation of conditions of service and establishment procedures, neglect and poor funding of state universities, and non-constitution of visitation panels for universities. Now, some will wonder, though, some of this are outside the purview of the federal government. Take, for instance, neglect and poor funding of state universities. What do you think that the federal government, assuming you have the negotiation with them at that level, will be able to do about, say, funding in state universities?
Well, it's not totally out of the purview of federal government because universities are regulated by the National Universities Commission in Nigeria, and it's a federal government, parastatal, and the licenses are also given by, that body, and therefore, whatever that is approved for universities at the federal level, it only follows that the system, trickles down to the state universities. Universities are universal. The operations are similar. Even those at the private sector get their licenses from government. Now, part of the issues we have with the state governments is that most of the state governments or state governors do create or establish universities for political reasons, not because they really need them. You would see that almost every state in Nigeria today has a university or two, or most of them. Now, where you have not funded one properly, you are still going to create others or establish others. Where you have not put in place infrastructure, where you have not put in place professionals, and academics that should run the system and operate these universities to, dispense and give out education to our young teeming youths, you are still, gearing to, establish more universities. This situation in the state university is so pathetic because I can tell you that there are so many state universities whose workers have not received salary in the last 6-7 months.
So what do you want the federal government to do about that?
What we are saying is that there should be enforcement. We should not only be backing, but NUC should bite. Universities are regulated by laws. There are councils of such universities. The governors are the visitors of the universities. And therefore, if you do not have the wherewithal to operate a university, you close down. But you cannot bring in people's destiny and put them there, and then you give out, and people will be complaining about half-baked graduates. It is not expected that because you graduate from a state university, or you should be seen or be looked at as a lesser mortal. Universities are supposed to be of the same pedestal.
But looking at some of the other complaints, though, sadly, these are some of the things that we're saying. People will say that the biggest item of contention right now is Ipis, which battle it would seem that ASUU has fought and won. They have asked for an autonomous system of payments for universities. Wouldn't that already solve the problem of Ipis, which you're also raising here?
You see, the story of Ipis is something that should have been a good development for Nigeria, because here you have a government who came on the mantra of fighting corruption, and that it is obvious that there are a lot of corruption taking place in our public service, universities inclusive, and that personnel costs are bloated and so on. So we as a union believed that with this idea of coming together, having a seamless, payment of salaries across Nigeria for federal universities would have been the best thing that would happen. But, when the issue came up, the unions met and said that, look, the operations of the universities are not the same with the public service, the civil service, in the ministries, departments, and other agencies. There are peculiarities. In the universities, for example, you have issues such as sabbatical leave, you have visiting, lecturers, you have allowances that are not common, that are not found in other ministries and parastatals. And therefore, looking at the template or the Ipis program, you realize that all such things are not there. And that also, members of staff in the university system do not retire at the age of 60 or after 35 years of service. But the Ipis platform knocks you out once you are 60. So those are the peculiarities that the unions raised. And that government called us, demonstrated that such peculiarities were captured, and that we saw that there was no reason for us to reject if actually what we are doing is to ensure that the system operates, seamless. And after queuing in, agreeing with government, ASUU actually from day one up initially rejected. And still, until today, I am not aware if they have changed their position. But we realized that what we even were told and what we were shown was just a deception, because still our members are still having these problems. Because I can tell you that there are members of ours who still do not have access to their salaries.
So
some that have still continue to get mutilated salaries.
So
I give you an example.
Yes.
Our medical workers have had all their allowances withdrawn. Shift, call duty, and so on and so forth. They do not access. And then even some of our people who do, other jobs, outside their regular primary assignments.
Well, ASUU's battle was that as a university system, they should be able to have their own autonomous payment systems, that they will come up with theirs. Now, that battle was what they were on consistently for the last 8 to how many months or so before they eventually called off the strike. Since they have won that particular battle, shouldn't that already answer the question for Ipis? Would you be going with the autonomous system created for universities by, say, ASUU and allied bodies? I
do not know what ASUU is presenting as a solution to it, but I can tell you also that we also have a solution on the table, because salaries or payment of salaries, preparation up to payment is clearly the job of the non-teaching staff.
Okay.
And the people that do it are those in the bursary departments, and that in conjunction with our experts in the ICT. So who can provide a better solution than the non-teaching staff? And this, I tell you, that we have also floated something we call U4Ps, university payment solution that will pay and would have captured all the peculiarities in the system, where we will soon present to government, and we believe that government will listen. And if at all it is the name that they do not want, what we are saying is that take a better solution, which we are presenting, if you like, to work on Ipis, because Ipis has failed so far.
Lagos now, and take a question from Chamberlain.
Well, Ms. I'm just wondering, now that you talked about Ipis, you say Ipis was okay until a certain time, but ASUU came up with UTAS. Would it be a good idea if ASUU or if UTAS accommodated SSANU and NASU, or you prefer government to just follow the payment system that you have come up with? And isn't that going to have two separate payment systems that might be wieldy to manage?
Chamberlain, I think these problems are self-induced because government is the owner of the universities. We are all employees. And that if every facet of the university is bringing a solution, what the government needs to do is to listen. Take the one of, like I said, I cannot be able to talk about what ASUU is giving, but I can also tell you that we have assembled professionals who have come up with good solutions. And because if really what you want is to ensure that you do not have problem with your members of staff by paying them salaries as at when due, and without mutilation, without really denying others what they should get, they need to bring these professionals together. Look at where Ipis is deficient. If they want to borrow from our technology or from what we have given as a solution, so be it. We are not saying that there is a hard and fast rule about the fact that ours must be the one. But for now, what we have seen, Ipis has failed. We do not know about what ASUU is giving, but what we have presented or what we are going to present to government will be the solution to the problem.
Well, we have to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We want to be as optimistic as you are, that the federal government is listening and that they will do something before you eventually go or down to February 5th, as you have said you will, if nothing is done. But we hope that something is done. Mohammed Ibrahim is the national president of SSANU, that's the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us in our studios this morning.
Nice being here.